President, Carolyn Burns.
Thanks, Jim. Good evening, everybody. We're pleased to have you with us tonight for our second program addressing medical cannabis. Medical cannabis, just do it. The mechanics of recommending and dispensing. Rebecca Gwilt, co-founder and partner at Nixon Gwilt Law, will provide a review of the legal and practical issues of how to recommend medical cannabis to patients. And then we'll hear from Adam Blankinship, a pharmacist with gLeaf, who will walk us through the process once a patient shows up to the gLeaf dispensary. Before we get started, however, I have a few reminders. First, next week, come out and join us on June 24th to network with your RAM family and enjoy a beautiful Richmond evening, hopefully like tonight, with Top Golf Richmond. We have a private covered outdoor space reserved for members with its own separate ground level entrance from the parking lot, and we'll have a row of climate controlled golf bays for guests to enjoy on a first come, first served basis. The event is free to all members and a guest and includes a fajita bar and a drink ticket, along with golf bay access. But the deadline to register is tomorrow. Next, our final program in the medical cannabis series, a tour of gLeaf local dispensary, will take place on Wednesday, July 21st. The tour slots are limited, so please visit the website now and sign up if you're interested. In August, we have a take your family out to the ballpark on the 21st for a picnic, baseball game with fireworks, and visit the website soon to reserve your tickets or reach out to Laura and she will help get you registered. We are looking forward to our finally premiering our 200th anniversary video on September 21st, probably about a year and a half later than we had intended. That's going to be held at the Jefferson Hotel. Come and learn about our incredible history over 200 years and why the patient's advocate, physician's ally, and community's partner isn't just a catchy tagline. The MSV's annual meeting will be held October 22nd through the 24th at the Homestead Resort. As always, physicians from the Academy will be attending as delegates at the meeting, and if you're interested in representing the Academy, please reach out to Ms. Knowles for more details. And let's not forget our 200th anniversary celebration gala at Main Street Station on Saturday, November 13th. Make sure that's on your calendars. And finally, our member favorite of family events will host the annual Fall Family Event at Lloyd Family Farms on Sunday, October 10th from 2 to 5. And the popular family night at Lewis Ginter's Garden Festive Lights on Sunday, December 5th. So a lot to do in the next 6 months. RAM continues to support our members, and we're continuing to update our COVID-19 Resource Center on a daily basis, so you have all the information you need to protect and serve your patients. If RAM can help advocate for you in other ways, please let us know. And now for tonight's presentation. Don't forget CME is available. Be sure to follow the instructions to receive credit, which were included with your meeting confirmation email and will also be found in the follow-up email you'll receive from tonight's presentation. I'd also like to remind everyone that the presentation will be recorded and a link will be shared in the leg up. Please don't be shy to ask questions this evening. Use the chat feature to pose your questions, and Jim and I will read them out to Ms. Gwilt or Dr. Blankinship. I'd like to introduce our speakers now. Rebecca Gwilt is co-founder and partner at Nixon Gwilt Law. She provides legal, regulatory, and business guidance to healthcare clients focused primarily on public and private healthcare reforms, such as MACRA, ACA, high-tech, bundling, and accountable care, digital healthcare, integrated care, value-based care, fraud and abuse, and healthcare privacy security. After graduating from the top-ranked healthcare law program at the University of Maryland, Francis King Carey School of Law, Rebecca served at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, where she worked with CMS leadership and the President's Domestic Policy Council to develop the Affordable Care Act policy, guidance, regulations, and technology contracts. Her expertise includes deep knowledge of healthcare laws and regulations affecting various stakeholder groups, including large and small employers, healthcare providers, payers, and healthcare software and services vendors. Rebecca was appointed by the Governor of Virginia to serve on the Board of Medical Assistance Services, which oversees the Commonwealth's Medicaid program. She's a member of the American Bar Association, the Virginia Bar, and the American Health Lawyers Association. She's also co-founder of the Virginia Cannabis Industry Association. Following Rebecca will be Adam Blankinship. He's a clinical pharmacist with gLeaf Medical of Virginia, and he received his Bachelor of Science in Biology from VCU and also completed his Doctor of Pharmacy at VCU School of Pharmacy. Prior to his position with gLeaf, he was a pharmacy manager with CVS Pharmacy, where he helped establish the pharmacist and pharmacy tech training programs at their startup. Welcome, Rebecca and Adam.
Thanks, Carolyn. I am going to quickly share my screen here. Just throw your hand up if it doesn't work. One moment. All right, do you all see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. All right, hello. It's so great to be here. It's good to speak with you this evening. I am going to address a couple of things tonight. One is absolutely the mechanics of prescribing, and please don't take notes. My slides and the document I'll be showing you after this will be in your hands. But before I get to the mechanics, I wanted to talk a little bit about the program in Virginia, which some of you may or may not be familiar with, and which has changed significantly year over year for the last couple of years. So I want to sort of bring you up to speed with what is the current state of the cannabis program in the state. And I would ask Adam to jump in at any point if he has anything else to add. So let's go ahead and get started. So just a little bit of history, in case you didn't know, a little jewel here. Virginia was one of the first states in the country to legalize marijuana. In 1979, they passed a law allowing doctors to prescribe medical marijuana. Of course, nothing came of that because it's federally illegal, of course, to prescribe medical marijuana, but we, as a state, were a little bit ahead of our time, even though our regulatory program of late sort of came after many of the state level programs were enacted in a way that could actually operate. The cannabis program in the Commonwealth started in 2015, where we had a very, very narrow program. The law gave an affirmative defense, which means it is not legal to possess, but if you were prosecuted for possession, you would have an affirmative defense, meaning they couldn't find you guilty if you had a written certification from a doctor. But this written certification was only available for patients with intractable epilepsy. So very, very narrow. We see this in a number of states that start with sort of a condition-specific program where they'll have a list of conditions, and only then will the medical program allow for written certification. Between 2018 and 2020, we saw the biggest changes. Some of you will remember Dr. Dunavant was very instrumental in passing the Let Doctors Decide bill in 2018, which created the basic structure that is still operating today. In 2019 and 2020, small changes were made to that program. Now what we have is a full medical program where physicians can write recommendations for cannabis oil. In the last session, it actually was changed to cannabis products. It sort of continues to expand. but they can write recommendations for patients to purchase cannabis products at dispensaries like the one run by gLeaf, and that if those persons are in possession of those products, that is a legal possession. So it's not just an affirmative defense, it's an actual protection. Those products are legal in the hands of folks that have these certifications. One of the things the 2020 bill did was expanded the practitioners from just physicians to nurse practitioners and physician associates. And it clarified the dosing around it, which I won't get into here, but which Adam is probably going to cover in his presentation. We are no longer a condition-specific, as of 2018, condition-specific medical program. Physicians can write recommendations and certify patients for their ability to purchase cannabis products for any diagnosed condition or disease. And there are a couple of other protections for registered caregivers to be able to be in possession, for schools to be able to be in possession. So what we're seeing every year over year, is sort of an expansion of the program in ways that expand the types of products, the types of individuals that can be in possession of those products, and the places and number of locations where you can purchase those products. I'll talk a little bit here about sort of where we are in 2021. The program that we discussed that was created in 2018 created 5 licenses that were available to what we call vertically integrated pharmaceutical processors. gLeaf is one of those 5 licensees. There are 3 others that are currently operational. There is one that is not operational yet. One of the recent changes in the law is that each of those licensees can open up to 5 additional dispensing facilities. So there's one location that has everything from cultivation to manufacture and extraction to packaging and sales. That's the facility in Manchester, but you're going to start to see other locations where they're just selling the product. So you'll have, one of the more recent ones, I think, is starting on Broad Street. Probably Adam knows sort of timing on that, but we're going to see additional dispensing locations shortly. Each of the licensed, the larger licensed facilities are led by a pharmacist in charge. The pharmacists and pharmacy techs that are located at those dispensing facilities will do the determination of dosing, while physicians will still have the opportunity to provide instructions to patients. The pharmacist will be in charge of what products the person ultimately purchases. We have delivery capability in Virginia, so that once you go in to the pharmacy, you are able to have the rest of your products delivered directly to your home. There was a telemedicine restriction in an earlier bill, but that has since been removed. So you can, as a physician, have a consultation with a patient that results in a certification that's done remotely. One thing to keep in mind for that is, unless something has changed recently, that telemedicine that telemedicine visit that results in a certification has to abide by federal teleprescribing laws. During the public health emergency, those are the restrictions on prescribing when you haven't had an in-person visit with the patient have been relaxed, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens when the public health emergency ends. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing that's happened is an expansion in what kinds of products are available. So it used to be just oil-based products, and now we're going to be seeing edible products, inhalation products, and probably sometime in the fall, botanicals, so the actual cannabis flower that is generally smoked. That all of those sort of different kinds of products will be available. Also, starting July 1, you're going to have patients that are that may be taking advantage of the new laws that provide decriminalization for possession for up to an ounce of marijuana. So they may purchase it illegally, but they may have it in their possession legally. They will also, starting July 1, the law also allows individuals to grow up to 4 plants at their home. So while today we're going to be talking about medical cannabis products that are purchased from a medical cannabis licensee, you as physicians are likely going to see patients, continue to see patients who have access to these products outside of that structure. Next year, we're going to see similar legislation to this year. I don't know how similar, but similar legislation to what happened in this year's session, which is moving us toward an adult use market where we're not talking about medical cannabis products, but rather just, commercial cannabis products that are, available similar to states like California and Colorado. That should not start. The enactment date right now is 2024, so it's still in the offing, but that's what we're likely to see next. I want to quickly go through, just for some of you that may need a refresher, sort of federal cannabis law and policy, so you understand the risks, or rather the lack of risk to your livelihood if you start making these recommendations. Of course, marijuana is a Schedule I substance and illegal federally, but there was a case out of 2002 that basically confirmed that the government cannot enforce against a physician who makes a recommendation for a cannabis product, because that violates the First Amendment right to private speech between a physician and a patient. So the federal government is barred from, for instance, stripping you of your DEA license because you're making these recommendations per federal law, per federal case law. The other thing that protects you from a federal level is the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment, which prohibits the Department of Justice from spending any money spending any money basically to enforce against marijuana possession or production or anything like that, if the individual that they are going after is abiding by state level medical marijuana laws and are currently complying. So as long as you're complying with Virginia law, there is no funding. Not only is there case law supporting it, but there is no funding available to prosecute or go after folks at the state level if they're abiding by their state program. From a state perspective, we've had unanimous passage of the legislation in Virginia, and the regulating body is the Board of Pharmacy, which sits under the Department of Health Professions. So there's very little risk that your license would be in jeopardy under the regulatory bodies here in Virginia, or under the law enforcement authorities in Virginia, because we have a legal program. The program is endorsed by a number of associations at the state level and national reputable associations. What most physicians worry about, that I talk to them about, is the malpractice risk. So I'm not going to go through all these things here, but I've bulleted out the kinds of things that I would be talking to a clinician about when they have questions about how they reduce their medical malpractice risk and coverage. But I would recommend that you all go and look at the physician guidance from the California Medical Board. They have a very mature program. There are good guidelines there for you to follow if you're new to this area. And of course, you guys are physicians and scientists. You know how to do the research and make your best determination in terms of diagnosis and recommendations. So I want to do a quick time check here because I want to go to the mechanics. Hold on, I got to get my little timer out. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen one more time, and I'm gonna go to another document here. Here we go. All right, you should all be looking at something that's orange and blue and funky. Is that happening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So again, no need to like take notes or memorize this. I'm going to give this to you. You can keep it in your practice and reference it. These are the kinds of things you need to make sure you're doing prior to issuing a cannabis certification. So first, of course, you're going to want to register with the Board of Pharmacy. That's how you're going to get the form written certification that you have to use to write a certification for the patient, to give it to them so that they can, so that the patient can register and get their medical cannabis card so that they can go to the gLeaf dispensary or pharmacy. And Adam will probably take you through that process, but that's the first thing you want to do. And the directions on that are here. But from a sort of a person walks into my office perspective, what you're going to want to do is conduct an assessment and evaluation of the patient, develop a treatment plan, and, you know, just like any other patient, make sure that you've done a full medical history and that you understand, you know, what their complaint is, as well as other medical conditions they have. Again, you don't have to do an in-person physical examination, but if it meets the, you know, if you believe that you need to do an in-person physical examination to meet the standard of care, then that's what you should do, and document all of this in your medical record. Then you need to diagnose the patient. That diagnosis can't be delegated to someone else who isn't the recommending clinician. Now, again, nurse practitioners, PAs, they can also write these certifications in addition to MDDOs, but that's not something that you can delegate. You need to make a determination that the potential benefits of the product would likely outweigh the health risks, and you need to explain the proper administration and potential risks and benefits of the products to the patient. My guess is that the pharmacist will do that as well. But to the extent that that it meets the standard of care for you to explain this to the patient, you need to do so. And if the patient is under the care of a parent or a legal guardian, you need to make sure that you're explaining that to that person as well. You need to be available or ensure that another practitioner is available to provide follow-up care and treatment to the patient, including, if necessary, physical examinations, to make sure that your recommendation is working for them and it doesn't need to be adjusted, et cetera. This is very similar to what you would do if you put a patient on any other kind of medication regimen or care plan. Adhering to generally accepted medical practice standards. Again, there are many associations that have guidance on medical cannabis and how to use it, and there are studies. Again, California has a good physician guide. So those are the kinds of things that you want to be looking to develop your process and methodology for writing these certifications. You want to maintain your medical records, of course. And then before you make your final certification, you need to check the Virginia Prescription Monitoring Program to make sure that that the patient isn't taking any other substances that may contraindicate the use of medical cannabis. And make sure that you add to your medical record that you have done that check and attach the report to the patient record. This process also cannot be delegated to anyone else. And the last is that you should have sufficient education and training so that you can exercise appropriate professional judgment. There are numerous programs out there that talk about this that you can access, online training programs, CMEs, and the like. But you should be able to say that you know something about this before you start writing those certifications. Also, you're going to have to fill out and submit it's a DHP form for the patient. Adam might talk about that today, but basically you receive this form when you register with the Board of Pharmacy to get your, to be approved to write these certifications. There's no patient limit on this. The law used to include a patient limit of 600, but that has since been removed. And just a reminder, you can't issue certifications for yourself or for your family members, employees, or coworkers. The last piece I want to say here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Adam, is that there are reporting requirements. So you want to keep track of in your medical record or somehow all the folks for whom you've written these certifications, because if one of them dies or if someone has or if they have a change in status that makes you think they don't really need, or they really shouldn't have this certification anymore, you need to be reporting that to the Board of Pharmacy to make sure that they can update their records. And you've got 15 days to do that. So, so the easier you make it administratively for you to, pull the trigger on something like that and make sure that that report gets made, the better. Again, I've put registration directions here for the Board of Pharmacy, and I'll provide this to you. And I am happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Rebecca. Adam, welcome.
Thank you. Give me 1 second to get my screen up. All right. Thank you, Rebecca. That was a great presentation on your part. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Blankinship. I'm a clinical pharmacist at Greenleaf Medical of Virginia, or gLeaf. I started here in May of last year, before we were actually operational as a dispensary. We opened in November, so I've been practicing in the cannabis field for a little over, 6 months now, 7 months or so. By no means am I an expert. I'm still kind of learning every day. We weren't taught this in pharmacy school, unfortunately. So it was a lot of self-education, a lot of meeting with Dr. Helen Kerr, who you guys met in the last seminar. But yeah, that being said, today I'm going to go over the patient experience in the cannabis program. Starting with getting their certification from you guys, to registering with the Board of Pharmacy, coming to the dispensary, meeting with the pharmacist and the pharmacy team, what we do in our consultation and evaluation, and then going over, what kind of products we have available, how to use them, how to store them, and how to dispose of them. So basically what I kind of just said there, the objectives, so I won't really read over that again. So first and foremost, how does a patient obtain their patient registration? And when I say registration, that's, it's the same thing as the medical card in this sense. So, first they're going to meet with a Board of Pharmacy registered practitioner, who will, issue them that valid written certification. And there's several ways that patients can actually look up to see which practitioners are registered with the Board of Pharmacy. One, actually on the Board of Pharmacy website, there's a license lookup where you can actually search for registered practitioners that dispense cannabis oil. Also, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the nonprofit NORML, VA NORML. So that's a national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. It's a great website, just in general, overall, about any kind of, questions that you have. They do a great job of explaining all that with all the different laws and stuff that's coming out. But they actually have a link on there as well, of doctors who are registered with the Board of Pharmacy. So patients can go there and try to find different doctors that way. So once they obtain that written certification, that alone does not satisfy the requirement to legally possess cannabis. They will have to register online with the Board of Pharmacy and send in the required docs. And so we'll go over what those are next. So to register with the Board of Pharmacy, I won't go over each of the steps here, just kind of highlight the main points. So if it's their very first time ever going on the Board of Pharmacy website, they will have to register. So just kind of keep that in mind. And they're going to select the pharmaceutical processing cannabis oil from the profession drop down and make sure they're selecting cannabis oil patient. Patients that have a caregiver, it is really important for the caregiver and the patient to know that the caregiver also will need to register with the Board of Pharmacy. There is a fee for them as well. But if the caregiver does not register, they will not be allowed to come into the dispensary and help the patient pick out products. So a lot of patients don't realize this, and they get here and we have to turn them away. So for you doctors, if you can explain that to them and, let them know if you have a patient who's definitely a candidate for, having a caregiver, that'd be great to let them know. Also, minors are eligible to get their certification with a legal guardian or parent. Again, they also will have to register with the Board of Pharmacy and pay a fee. So it's a $50 annual fee for patients, and then it's $25 fee for legal guardians or caregivers. So once you pay the fee, you will then send in the required documentations to the Board of Pharmacy so they can process your application. And we'll go over what those documents are. So really, they're going to need to send in the copy of their certification that they received from you guys. And then they just need a proof of residency, a proof of identity, and then a proof of their age. So, their certification and a driver's license, will meet all those requirements there. So they can send that into the Board of Pharmacy. They will have to wait for the Board of Pharmacy to process the application. That usually takes around 7 to 10 business days. Once it's processed, they will then ship out the registration card to the patient's home address. One kind of important note here is, even though they've registered with the board and paid their fee and maybe have gotten a confirmation email and they already have their certification, at this particular time, they're still not legally able to come into the dispensary. They actually have to wait till they get their physical hard copy of that card in the mail. So that's another, kind of key point to let patients know, so they don't just show up and we have to, turn them away. So, while they're waiting though for that card to come in, they can, register to become a patient with us. They don't have to do this ahead of time, but they can, to save time. So they can visit our website and click on register now, which I have over here on the right. So this is a little screenshot of part of our website. So they can actually register now. And I actually have a link to that. So basically it takes them to our online patient intake form. So that kind of looks like this. The online version is going to be a little bit more condensed, but this is, our hard copy for the patients when they come into the store. So, they'll fill out all their personal information, what kind of conditions that they have, what medications they're on, their previous cannabis history, and then, the reason for visit, and what they're kind of looking to get out. So that's nice to kind of have that there. Let's see. Oh, wow. Sorry, give me 1 second. Cool. So they can fill out that form and then attach the required documents. So they will have to send in the 3 required documents, and I'll go over what exactly those are that we will need to view each visit. So this will be good because they'll save time for when they actually come in. We can go ahead and build their patient profile in our confidential system, have all that ready for when they do come in. This part up here at the top for the new patient schedule a virtual consult. This is mainly for patients that are disabled and they're not able to make it into the dispensary for whatever reason. They haven't made any purchases anywhere, so they're not actually eligible for delivery or in-store pickup yet because they haven't had their initial consultation and that would meet the pharmacist. So we actually created this program where we are allowing patients to sign up for a virtual consult, and we have the pharmacist gets on and actually does the consultation over the computer, and then that way that patient is then eligible to get their products delivered to their home address. All right, so once their registration card arrives in the mail, they are ready to actually visit the dispensary. And here on the right is our beautiful facility. Like Rebecca was saying, this particular facility is vertically integrated, so that's why it's so big. We have an 82,000 square foot facility that has the lab. We have 9 different grow rooms, the dispensary, packaging, all that. I highly encourage everyone to sign up for the July 21st, I believe it is, the tour to come visit. check it out. It's a really neat place. Our hours of operation and phone number, everything is up in the top right corner for you guys. So yeah, on that initial visit, patients will need to bring these 3 required documents. And this is very important because if they don't have all 3, they will not be allowed back into the dispensary. So first one is that registration card, that, their medical card, and we need the physical copy, not a copy. So a lot of patients the first time will try to bring a picture of it on their phone. And we can't accept that. The Board of Pharmacy specifically states that it has to be the physical card. To go along with that, they need to bring in the current written certification. So this also is another issue, because a lot of patients will have their certification and their registration card. But the cert had actually expired, but the registration card is still active, because there's going to be 2 different dates on those cards. So the certification, from the date that you guys signed it, it's good for 1 year. But once they actually send it off to the board, and when the board approves their card, then that they put another yearly expiration date on that registration card. So that could be, a month later or what have you. So they don't always match up. So, some patients have that card that's still active, but then their cert's expired and, they're not allowed back. So we have to, communicate that to them, that they're going to have to reach back out to their provider and get a new certification. And then the last piece is a valid government issued ID. All right, so once you've, got all that and you're ready to come in, here's who you'll kind of meet at the dispensary. So, we have pharmacists. So the cannabis program is regulated by the Board of Pharmacy. So everyone that actually works behind the counter is licensed through the board. So, we have pharmacists, we have pharmacy interns and pharmacy technicians. Currently right now at our facility, we have 3 full-time pharmacists. We are in the process of hiring more. Like Rebecca said, we are expanding into our satellite dispensaries. We have a couple of locations, one in the West End in Shore Pump, and then another one in Carytown. We hope to have those up and operational by the end of the summer. It's looking like Carytown will be a little bit sooner than the Shore Pump one, but I don't have a definitive date on that. So, and then we also have pharmacy students or interns. They're a valuable asset to the team, because they're actually legally able to, counsel patients under the supervision of the pharmacist. So they do a great deal of education with all of our patients. And then we have pharmacy technicians. So in the traditional, cannabis world at a dispensary, when you go up to the counter and the patient you usually talk, or the person you usually talk to, it's called a bud tender. So they're the person that kind of really answers all your questions and product questions and stuff like that. So they pretty much do everything but answering the clinical questions. So they explain what the difference between different products are, how to use different products and stuff like that. Then we have some dispensary agents. We actually have a call center upstairs that's open, the whole time that the dispensary is open. And so what really they are is kind of like an educational resource center. It's a place that, patients or not patients can, call anytime to have any of their products questions, answered. So we get a lot of, patients that call up, they don't know the difference between rosin and hash. And so, that's what they're kind of explaining. They also can take, delivery orders up there, other orders and stuff like that, and just kind of answer any, cannabis related questions, not dosing related. We actually have a pretty big delivery team, which is awesome, because we're able to, deliver throughout the whole state. So we have 10 delivery cars here and a bunch of drivers. So it's a really cool opportunity that patients are able to conveniently get their medication, going forward. And then, we have receptionists. So these are going to be the first people that you meet when you come in. They're going to do the whole check-in process. So they're the ones that are going to be looking at those 3 required documents and making sure they're all active and up to date. We actually have it's called the Virginia Cannabis Patient Lookup. So it's a website by the Board of Pharmacy, where we actually type in their medical registration number to make sure that they're still active. So that's kind of what their job is to do in there. And then, of course, at every dispensary, we're going to have security to make sure everyone's safe. So once they've checked in and they're ready to come into the dispensary, this is what the dispensary looks like. Very, very beautiful. State-of-the-art dispensary that we have here in Manchester. So we have plenty of computer stations, registers. We have the menus up on the wall. So this is where patients will come back and they can talk to the bartenders or talk to the pharmacist and have a consultation. So speaking of the consultation, that's going to be kind of the bulk of this presentation. So the Board of Pharmacy does require pharmacists to counsel registered patients, parents, and legal guardians regarding the use of cannabis. They state that this counseling shall include information related to safe techniques of proper use and storage of cannabis, and for the disposal of the oils in a manner that renders them non-recoverable. So that's really all that the regulations state that a pharmacist has to do as far as the counseling piece. However, we go a lot more in depth than that. We do a full patient evaluation, which I'll kind of go over next. So we look at the patient's medication history that was on that form that they were to fill out, to make sure there's no drug interactions, because there are potential for those. Cannabis is metabolized through the CYP enzymes. You got to kind of worry about all of those. However, there's not a whole lot of information on drug interactions as far as significant ones. But again, we do counsel patients on that and caution them to kind of separate their medications if there are any potential interactions. The next thing is, really kind of just note their goals and their barriers. A lot of patients come in, they have specific goals of what they want to treat and, symptoms that they want to kind of help out. So you got to kind of take that into context when you're, talking to them and trying to recommend products. So some patients, they don't want to be high. They don't want to smoke. So that kind of also directs us to certain product options. A lot of patients come in and they have a lot of anxiety because they don't really know anything about cannabis. So, a lot of it is just kind of, talking to them, reassuring them that, it's going to be okay. Really just kind of educating them to make them feel, more comfortable about using cannabis products. So once we kind of, determine their goals and what they want, then we'll kind of determine the preferred mode of administration. So this will also help kind of narrow the field down of what products to kind of choose. So then, the last step is suggesting certain products based on the cannabinoid and terpene profile. So it's really important to kind of be able to read, different, lab results to really pick out the best product. And we'll kind of, touch base on a little bit about that in the next couple of slides. So I think this slide right here is a good one, because a lot of patients will come in and they're stuck on one strain, or they want to know what's the best strain to cure their cancer, or what's the best strain for pain. But that's really not how cannabis works. The way that the strains produce their effects is because of all the different compounds that grow naturally inside the plant. So a lot of this, was talked about in Dr. Kerr's presentation, but it's all about the cannabinoids and the terpenes working together to produce those effects. So that's called the entourage effect. So they work synergistically together to deliver their therapeutic effect. So, it's really important to kind of understand this and make sure patients understand this as well, because a lot of times patients will come in and they think THC is the end all be all, and that's really not the case. and they want the highest THC product. They don't really know anything about the other cannabinoids and terpenes and how they play a role. So we do a lot of education to kind of steer them away from just looking at THC when it comes to picking out products to really kind of help them. So how do we kind of recommend products? I like this chart here over on the right. It's made by gLeaf. We actually have a lot of these displayed throughout the pharmacy. They make a lot of good educational resources that are really user friendly and kind of so the patient can easily kind of go through and make decisions. But really, you kind of can follow along with this. Obviously, we don't have flower available right now, but you're going to want to determine the preferred route of administration. So that's going to limit some of the products options that are available. So are they okay with inhalation or are they not? And then we can kind of go down those avenues. Then you want to kind of determine their experience and tolerance level. So that's gonna make a difference. We have some products that are way more concentrated than others. So that kind of makes a difference. And then once you kind of figure out those two, then really kind of educate the patient on those preferred products that are available, what they are and how to use them. Because a lot of patients have no idea what any of the products that we have, mean. And then after that, we're gonna kind of just recommend products that we think are the best for them, and kind of starting doses. But then it's really kind of up to them to kind of choose which ones that they want to try out. It's a lot of trial and error, especially with inhalation products, of which one's going to work the best. So we do encourage patients to kind of try different stuff, and I'll kind of go over a little bit more of that down the road. So going into, what kind of products do we have available at the pharmacy? So here's a picture of several of them. So inhalation products. So we have, vape cartridges and concentrates available. So we have several different, vape carts. We have CO2 full spectrum extracts, solventless live rosin, and distillate. Really, the main difference between all three of them is just kind of the process of how they're extracted and how they're made. So obviously, CO2 extracts use a CO2 extraction. So Board of Pharmacy regulations, we're not allowed to use any hydrocarbon extraction, so no butane, propane, anything like that. So CO2 is the main solvent that you can actually use to, extract the cannabis. And then a lot of what we do is solventless extraction. So that's going to be, mechanical separation by, pressing, doing a press or ice water bath. So that's kind of what the solventless live rosin cartridge is. It's a little bit, more pure. Generally, they have higher potencies than the CO2. So they're kind of for more of an experienced user. And then the distillate. So distillates are basically products where all the other terpenes and cannabinoids have basically been stripped away, and we're just kind of isolating the ones that we want. So in this case, THC and CBD. So they're usually, pretty potent, but they don't really have all the terpenes associated with it unless they're added back into it. The way that these vape cartridges are used is with this battery pin this battery right here. So it's a lithium battery that's able to be recharged. So the patient will take this cartridge right here and screw it onto this. There's no pin or no button or anything. It's just an auto draw. There are pins that do have buttons that you can change the voltage and everything like that, but that's basically the two devices the device that we sell in the dispensary. And then other inhalation products that we have are concentrates. So just like the term, concentrate, so they're very concentrated stuff. So we have rosin and bubble hash. And really the difference between these is, they're both made using the same starting material. But then, the bubble hash is then further pressed to make rosin. So In doing that, it kind of removes some of the impurities, but it also, concentrates it, makes it a little bit more potent. So they kind of have a little bit different textures. The bubble hash is the one here on the right. It's a little bit more, grainy, fine, whereas the rosin is going to be a little bit more waxier. These products, though, are a little bit more complicated to be able to use. So patients they can do it a couple of ways. You can cook with the bubble hash, especially rosin, you can cook with it as well. So you can make your own edibles out of it that way if you wanted to. But the main way to use these is for inhalation purposes. So people can it's called, getting a dab rig. So it's similar to smoking cannabis out of a water pipe or a bong. But there's a different apparatus on the end where you actually have to torch it up and heat it to a certain temperature. And you put a dab of the medicine in there and inhale it that way. So it's very hands-on and kind of complex. I usually never kind of recommend that really to anyone, but especially not any novice users. Or they can kind of get a portable wax pen. So it's kind of similar to this pen over here, except there's a chamber on the top that you can actually put in the oil in there and be able to inhale it that way. Let's see here. So the primary difference between a concentrate and extract is how the trichomes are collected. So extracts are a type of concentrate created using solvents, alcohol, carbon dioxide, that essentially wash the trichomes off the cannabis plant. Concentrates, however, are made without the use of solvents and are produced using mechanical or physical means to remove and gather trichomes. So all extracts are concentrates, but not all concentrates are extracts. So then going into the oral options. So these are kind of our main products that we like to, recommend, these and the tinctures. So we have medicated chews. We have several different flavors. Right now in stock, we have, blue raspberry, cola, and wild cherry. But, the flavors kind of come and go. We do have medicated chocolates. We don't have any in stock right now, but we have our milk and dark. And then we actually have another product that we actually don't have in stock now, but we should hopefully be getting back. It's a THCA oral syringe. So this is something that patients can, take orally, or they can put it under their tongue. It's not psychoactive since it's all in the THCA form. So that's a great option for patients who are not looking to get that high. Then we'll move into our sublingual options. So we have two different types of tinctures available usually in the pharmacy. We have a THC dominant tincture, and then we also have a CBD dominant tincture. So the THC dominant tinctures are usually going to be kind of like a 2-to-1, just because that's Board of Pharmacy regulations. Like Rebecca was saying earlier in her slide, there can be no more than 10 milligrams of THC per dose, but there also has to be at least 5 milligrams of CBD or THCA. So in the THC tincture, for instance, like this particular one that we have available, I want to say, 1.25 mLs, there's 9.7 milligrams of THC and around 5 milligrams of CBD. So it's kind of like a 2-to-1. CBD though, right now we only have a 22-to-1 in stock, but we've had other formulations like a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. We're waiting just to get those approved again. So this has 22 parts CBD to 1 part THC. So very little amount of THC in this. So this is a really good product, especially for, beginners or for, patients that don't want to have that high, but do want to have a little bit of that THC to kind of, have that synergy with the CBD. Then the last kind of product option that we have available at this time are topicals. So we have a salve. We had 2 different formulations. We had a lavender and a eucalyptus. One was an extra strength, and then one was a regular strength. So these are great just for localized effects. They aren't absorbed systemically, so they're not going to produce a high. Not a whole lot of data on them, but they are a great option for localized pain. So then we'll kind of jump into what the product labels of those items kind of look like. And, so here's a couple of examples of product labels. So over on the left, we have a live rosin. So, this is one of those solventless concentrates. It's a loose concentrate. So, a product where you'll have to dab it. As you can see, it's ultra potent. It's up in the 86% THCA. And then you can see down here. So these are all the the cannabinoids that the labs test for. There's over 100 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, but they only test for the main ones. These are the terpenes that they test for as well. I think they test for, I want to say like 20 or 24, but there's over 200 terpenes in the cannabis plant. So they do test for the main primary cannabinoids, which you'll see over here. But basically, this is kind of what we use to reference what kind of product to pick for patients. They are color schemed as well. This green outline around the name is green for hybrid. And then over here, you'll see it's purple. So that's indica. And then if there's ever a red, it's sativa. So this kind of helps patients know, is this an indica product, sativa, or hybrid? And that kind of tells them, indica is obviously better for nighttime. And then sativas are better for daytime, and hybrids are kind of right in the middle. So yeah, looking at this Vegas OG over here on the right, this is one of our FSC cartridges. So, much less potent, but very full spectrum. It's got, all the cannabinoids and all these terpenes. It's got a ton of myrcene and caryophyllene and linalool, all the stuff that, Dr. Helen Kerr kind of went over with you guys last week. But, this would be like a great product for sleep based on this particular terpene profile. So that's kind of what we will look at to kind of make the decisions. Here's a couple more of the labels. So here's that CBD. Oh, wow. Here's that CBD tincture label, that 22:1. So as I was saying, there's 33 milligrams of CBD to just 1.5 milligrams of THC per 1 ml. So, they can get a pretty heavy dose of that CBD with really a minimal dose of THC. So, like I was saying, it's a really great daytime product. It's a really great product to just kind of introduce, novice patients into the cannabis so they can start building those receptors and everything. Then they can kind of, once they've tried this one, then they can kind of maybe titrate up to this THC dominant tincture. And you can see, it's got that 9.7 milligrams of THC to, about 6 milligrams of CBD. So it's a little bit, stronger there. Here's what like the label for the chews look like. Again, down here, it shows you the cannabinoid content. So usually kind of always around a 2:1, depending on how close the lab can get it. The one thing to kind of keep in mind with the oral products, as you'll see, is there really is no terpenes associated with them. So our products, unfortunately, don't have any terpenes. Our oral products don't. And that's for a couple of reasons. A, they're just not very bioavailable orally as they are, with the inhalation products. And then since these are already all kind of decarb, the starting material was used with a distillation. So like I was saying, with distillation, you're actually going to remove all those natural terpenes. So you can add them back in, but they're not going to be cannabis derived terpenes. So they just decided to not do that yet at this particular time. But hopefully in the future, we'll look at, getting more full spectrum, oral products. So yeah, once we've kind of, gone over all the different products with the patients and, educated them on how to use them and what they are, and they kind of recommended, certain ones, and we'll kind of go over, how to dose them and where to start. So, the optimal dose for everyone's is gonna be different. So the optimal dose is gonna be the minimal dose needed for symptom relief without side effects. So it's very important to kind of understand not everyone's gonna follow this same graph here. So really just the main thing to keep in mind is to start low and go slow. Less is more. You can always take more, but you can't can't take less. So, really kind of drive that home on patients. We really like to start at the lowest possible dose and then slowly taper them up over the course of several days. So THC and CBD, they have a biphasic effect. So, at first you're getting a good amount of benefit, but then eventually as you increase the dose, you're actually, you're not getting the same benefit anymore. So a lot of patients will kind of run into this as far as their tolerance and everything. They keep increasing their dose. And then eventually they're going to reach this point where they're not getting any more benefit. So it's important for those patients to kind of take a drug holiday and take a step back and kind of reset those receptors. So dosing, is for our inhalation products, I usually recommend, one inhalation at a time, do a very slow, 2 to 3 second inhalation max. You're going to feel the effects immediately. Peak effects within 15 minutes. So I usually, tell patients to wait a good 15, 30 minutes before trying to dose again. The good thing about inhalation products is they are, short acting. So they're only going to last, 1 to 3 hours. So, if they were to dose and take too much, they just need to wait it out a little bit. Sublingual, again, so they're going to put this under their tongue, starting low, 1 milligram is recommended. Really kind of, starting, it's going to be anywhere from like 1 to 5 milligrams. Obviously, shooting for the lower is better, but sometimes it's kind of hard to get exactly 1 milligram starting dose with the products that we have available. So if I'm able to get them in that beginner, starting range, that's what I do. So I usually kind of shoot for anywhere between, 1 and 5 milligrams. The good thing about our products is, they aren't straight THC. So they do have some of that CBD to kind of mitigate any of that, adverse effects from the THC. So they're able to kind of take a little bit higher dose in that instance. So the onset for sublingual is a little bit longer than with inhalation. So it can take anywhere from, 5 to 30 minutes, even up to like 45 minutes. But it's going to last anywhere from like 3 to 6 hours, even on the high end. Then edibles, again, 1 milligram is the recommended dose, but anywhere from 1 to 5 milligrams. So usually we tell patients to cut their chews in fourths and start with a fourth, and then slowly taper that up over the next couple of days if needed. So the one thing to kind of keep in mind with edibles is they have a really delayed onset. So it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to up to 2 hours to take effect. So a lot of patients, they'll wait an hour or so, nothing's happening, and they'll think that it's okay to dose again. And I don't recommend that. I tell patients to wait a full 24 hours and try again the next day, and that's when they can taper up that next day. Edibles are great though, because they are going to last 4 to 12 hours. But that being said, since they do last so long, that's why it's ultra important to start at a low dose so that they're not kind of overdosing and taking too much, because they're going to have to wait a long time for that THC to kind of start to come down. Sublingual and edible options, I think, are the best to kind of start patients on, just because they're easier to really kind of dose. Inhalation is so sporadic on what dose that you actually get. And what I mean by that is, if you inhale for 2 seconds versus 3 seconds, that's a different dose. If you hold it in for 2 seconds versus 3 seconds, those are different doses. So it can be kind of hard to control for some patients who aren't, experienced with it. Are they really getting, really actually inhaling and getting down into their lungs? Or are they just puffing it and keep it in their mouth, kind of like a cigar, and actually not getting the dose? So that can kind of be hard. I really like the tincture options, just because it comes with a dropper that actually does have the different marks on there. It has the 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75 and 1 ml. And those actually mean something. You can actually calculate what that dose is. So, patients are easily to able to, slowly titrate their dose up on their own. And same thing kind of with the edibles. So, if here's a couple of helpful tips. So like I was talking about, if patients were to, over medicate in a sense, they just kind of need the main thing to kind of keep in mind is, you can't overdose on cannabis. Really time is going to be the main thing. So just letting it pass. If you have friends, obviously don't let them peer pressure you to keep doing more, but, just talking to other people to kind of help distract you from it will kind of help bring you down. Kind of having patience and breathing, all that stuff, stay hydrated, drink plenty of fluids, and that kind of help, calm patients down. But what I really encourage patients to do is keep a product journal. So this is going to really help them understand, what products are working for them. So, we help them, at the start with, suggesting certain products to try based on, those terpene profiles and everything. And we give them kind of a starting dose. So we would like for them to, kind of write that down, when they try it out, so that they have a reference point that they can go back on and look, this product worked really well for me. Why was it? Well, it had, these terpenes in there. And then they can, relay the information to us, and we can help, pick out other products that are going to be similar to that. Because we're not going to always have, the same strain name available at that time. So that, like I was saying earlier, I don't want patients to kind of get fixated on a strain, because we might not have that particular strain the next time that they come in. That might be, a couple harvests behind. But we may have a product that's similar to that particular product. And if that patient, kind of knew what dose they were taking and what kind of terpenes were in that product, then they would be able to, make a better decision on another product that could be similar to that. So then we'll kind of, the next couple of slides, we'll kind of just go over, how we tell patients to, store their cannabis and dispose of it. Those are the last part of the regulations for the pharmacist. So what happens when cannabis gets old? So there can be some lost THC. So as cannabis is exposed to heat, oxygen, and light, the cannabinoids within, including THC, they'll start to break down. And so really it's just going to start to lose some potency. THC breaking down is not necessarily a bad thing. So when THC does break down, it actually converts into CBN, which is another cannabinoid, another minor cannabinoid. And CBN, it has slight psychoactivity, but it's actually really beneficial for sleep. So products that actually have a high amount of CBD in them are great products for sleep. So, these products eventually, they would just kind of be, stored for sleep. And then obviously you're going to lose some flavor, and that's just because, the terpenes on there are drying out. So it might taste a little bit different and feel a little bit harsher upon inhalation. But it still technically would be safe to use. So how to, make sure none of that happens is with some proper storage. So, patients are going to want to keep it in a cool, dark, dry place. So, high temperatures can hasten the degradation of cannabinoids and terpenes. UV light is going to cause them to start to degrade. And then obviously moisture, this is more so for, once we have flower, that can lead to mildew and other mold contaminants. And then again, when we have flower as well, keeping it airtight and not letting the oxygen get in there, because that can, also speed up the degradation process. So then if patients do have to dispose of their products for whatever reason, there are a couple of ways that the board wants patients to do that. So first is, remove the product from the original container, mix it with undesirable substances, such as used coffee grinds, dirt, or cat litter. This is going to make it, so patients won't want to get in there and be able to use it after them. So then you can just place that mixture in a sealable bag, and then throw it away in the trash. We also here, we like to actually have patients, crush their cartridges afterwards, obviously doing it safely, because that's going to really prevent patients from being able to, or other people to get in their trash and use those cartridges and fill them up on their own and, kind of sell them on the black market. So if they're able to actually crush it and really make it inoperable, then that's kind of the best way to do it. But again, they got to do that safely. So if they can't do that, then, just mix it in with a bunch of, trash or coffee grinds and throw it out that way. So once, patients have come in for that very first time, and they've met with us and, we've had that consultation piece and we've answered their questions and they feel confident and they're good to go. They are then eligible for, delivery orders and other in-store pickups going forward. So they can actually sign up on our website we have a menu online. It's called through iHeartJane. That's our third-party online ordering platform. So patients can go to our website and actually do a delivery order or a pickup order. And I'll show you guys what that menu looks like. So it goes through all the different products that we have. So patients can, click on anything that has the product labels attached so they can see that. We kind of give a description based on what that strain is, kind of known to do. That's really kind of all anecdotal, from the internet. But this kind of just gives patients a reference on what to look at so they can pick out different products. But, it's broken down by different categories. So you have your vape products, you have your extracts, you have your edibles, your tinctures, the gear. If we ever have any sales, like what that is, you can actually, set it over here. Do you want high potency stuff or not? Do you want CBD? So it's really user friendly there. People actually are able to give reviews on there to show how that product, either helped them or didn't help them, or if they liked it or not. So it's pretty cool. Let's see.
Adam, we're still looking at your PowerPoint.
Oh yeah. Did that link not work?
I think you have to stop sharing and reshare whatever the new screen is.
I got you. All right, give me a second. Sorry, I was trying to show you guys our website, but I don't really know where.
Well, I want to do just a quick time check because it's 7:44.
Yeah, that was basically the last slide anyway. I was going to show you guys the website and everything, but unfortunately I'm having some difficulties getting that up. So yeah, we can wrap it up there and open it up for discussion and questions.
Adam, what is the website? Can you just tell us the website?
Yeah, patients can just go to gleaf.com/Virginia, and that will pull them up. And then they can just click, order now, and view the menu that way.
Thank you.
So thanks, Rebecca and Adam. That was a load of information for our members to have to consider getting involved in this endeavor. Many of us will look forward to touring the dispensary on the 21st of July. I do have a few questions here. We'll try to get through a few of them before our time runs out. You mentioned, Rebecca, that everybody should be well informed and understand how to use these products before we start prescribing, but there is no actual CME requirement by the Board of Pharmacy as far as you know?
That's correct.
Okay. Another question to you.
Although this is a CME.
This is a CME. Yes, it is. Does the caregiver need a certification form too?
Yeah, I think I answered all of these. I maybe the answers aren't going back to everyone, but I answered all of these. I can run through. Are you not seeing it, Carolyn?
You did. We're just asking them openly for folks who didn't have an opportunity to read.
Yeah. So the certification form is very simple. It essentially says, this is my name, I'm a physician, here's my signature. This patient, I'm providing this certification for this patient, and that's it. It's not complicated. If the patient is incapacitated or is a minor, the certification is written to the parent or the guardian or the representative on behalf of the patient. So there's just one, and it depends on whether it's being given directly to the patient or to the parent or guardian.
Okay, very good. And I think one of the later questions was, you do need a DEA number to prescribe. Is that correct?
So it is not legal to prescribe medical cannabis because it's federally illegal, right? So that's not an option in Virginia. What we say is certify or recommend. And no, you do not need a DEA registration number to certify or recommend medical cannabis, to my knowledge.
Okay, great. I think all of the other questions had been asked. I guess there was one here that said, can a provider write a prescription or make a recommendation for specific dosing?
Yeah, I'll let Adam take that one.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the way the regs are set up, that they can do that. I've actually never seen that happen though. All we usually get from the physician is just that certification that, like Rebecca was saying, has the patient's name on there, that they're able to use. The doctor says that they recommend that they can use cannabis. Then it has the doctor's name and signature, and really nothing else on there. It doesn't give us any information on what they recommended them for, or as far as conditions, or how to use it, or what products that they want them to use. So yeah, a lot of that's kind of, I guess, up to the discretion of the pharmacist once they kind of get in there. So.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much. It was really informative, and I'm sure we're going to be needing to learn a lot more as things progress. But
yeah, I learned a ton. That was great, Adam. And thank you, Carolyn and Laura and Jim.
Thank you. And I'd like to wish everybody a good night, and I hope to see you out at some of the RAM events coming up. Take care and be well.
Thank you, everyone. I hope to see you guys on the 21st.
Well, everyone.
Thank you.